The disaster that is the Republican caucus. Jim Jordan was headed into the weekend with about 65 votes, just off the top of my head, right? Is that was 65 votes shy of becoming Speaker of the House? That seems like a big gap.
I like how they keep hosting these closed-door elections on secret ballots, and then there'll be breaking news: Scalise elected or chosen by caucus. Breaking news: Jim Jordan chosen. But it has no real, actual impact because it doesn't matter. You need almost the entirety of the caucus, not just a majority.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, you could also get Democrats.
Well,
we don't live in the West Wing. I don't think there's going to be this grand bargain between Democrats and Republicans. In fact, now that this has shifted from a secret ballot where people can note their opposition to Jim Jordan under the comfort of secrecy, to an open ballot, because Jordan is pushing for a House floor vote tomorrow on this. Now we're starting to see some of this opposition to Jordan start to cave, because they don't want the heat from Fox News. They don't want the heat from the grassroots of the MAGA wing of the party. And so they're slowly starting to say, well, maybe Jim Jordan Speaker wouldn't be so bad. Let's put this
tweet up. This is reported by Axios' Julie Grace Brufke. Some Republicans, and it's interesting to note how this is presented. It is presented as if this is going to cost Jim Jordan votes. She said moderates are growing increasingly irritated with the tactics Jordan allies are using to pressure them into voting for him, with one member noting the Hannity show, and by this they mean the Sean Hannity show, has gotten involved in the efforts in sending potential defectors the email below. And I guess potential defectors are people who, I mean, they're not really defecting. They never seem to have voted for him in the first place.
I never defected in the first place.
Exactly. But this is the, actually, it's from Stephanie. Do you want to read it,
Sure.
Emma?
Well, because of, hello, Stephanie from the Hannity show with Fox News. Sources tell Hannity that...
Pause. Can I just say, I like how she doesn't even say, this is, or hi, it's just Stephanie.
She doesn't have enough
They're
time.
working over there. We don't have time.
No, yeah, exactly.
We gotta get this done.
Soldier-like.
Right.
Just the facts, please.
Sources tell Hannity that Representative XXX is not supporting Representative Jim Jordan for Speaker. Can you please let me know if this is accurate? And if true, Hannity would like to know...
Pause it now. Wait a second. Up to that point...
I will pause my voice.
That is... Oh, sorry. Up to that point... Sorry.
I love when that happens.
Saul, literally, and I, both back and forth, will do this in the House. It's to each other. But up to that point, that's a perfectly legitimate question that any
They're
reporter...
just doing a whip count.
Any reporter would do, right? Then this is where it starts getting a little bit more editorial.
And if true, Hannity would like to know why, during a war breaking out between Israel and Hamas, with the war in Ukraine, with the wide open borders, with a budget that's unfinished, why would Representative XXX be against Representative Jim Jordan for Speaker? Please let us know when Representative X plans on opening the People's House so work can be done. Lastly, are there any conditions Representative X will choose to work with Democrats on the process of electing a new speaker? The deadline for comment is 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, 10/16. Thank you.
Just an hour ago.
Which is incidentally why we saw that rash of of announcements of people are like, yeah, Jim Jordan's not that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the deal here. I mean, this is the kind of intimidation tactics that you would expect out of that wing of the party. And, and
there's nothing analogous. There's nothing analogous in the Democratic Party, right? I mean,
in terms of that kind of intimidation, no. I mean, because, Republicans fear their base and Democrats do not.
Well, also, I mean, it's not just that. It's I don't know, who would, for the Democratic base to get upset about somebody running or not getting votes, it would have been Nancy Pelosi.
Well,
I
if
mean,
you
she
didn't-
was like she had 60-70% support when she ran for,
If
I don't know
you
what
didn't disintegrate the left, this would be from you.
No, that's true. That's true. But I mean, there is no equivalence. Like, we don't have a Sean Hannity.
Right, who's doing the work for Trump here. I mean, we know from the January 6th investigation that they're in very frequent communication, Trump's team and Hannity's team. And
of course,
Hannity
Trump
wants Jordan.
And Trump endorsed Jordan at the beginning of this process. And he doesn't like the fact that there are members of the House Republican Caucus that are defying him.
Right.
So the fact that this is an open vote, that you will have to put your name to it, is going to make it very hard, I think, as we're seeing, for some House Republicans to just say no.
Okay, so let's say.
So who do we have that came out today? Mike Rogers is the head of the Armed Services Committee, said there's no way ever. We're forming a block between the Appropriations and the Armed Services Committee. We're not doing it. He came out for Jordan. The head of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, Ken Calvert, he came out for Jordan. Ann Wagner, who once said, asked if she would back Jordan, she said, absolutely not. She came out today for Jim Jordan. She was Steve Scalise's nominating speech in the caucus was made by Ann Wagner. Now she's come out for Jordan. So I think Jordan has a good shot.
Do you think if there's any holdouts, who do you assume they'll be? I mean,
well, now you get down to the ones in the Biden districts.
Exactly.
right. These are 18 Republicans who are elected in districts that Biden carried. 3 in New York.
I think
Is it 3 or
5.
4 or
5 in New York.
I guess that would make sense. And then maybe as many in California. More.
Yeah, something like that.
And it remains to be seen how much they want to hold on to their jobs. It's also sort of shocking to me.
But do they want to hold on to their jobs in the primary? I mean, that's
Right.
the thing. There's no question that there are already whispers going out to these guys. If you vote against Jordan, you're going to draw a primary challenger, and that's going to be hard for them to deal with.
And what do you think about the motion to vacate Jordan's? Do you think that the caucus broadly recognizes that the inclusion of that in any agreement to elect speaker is disastrous, given what they just went through?
I don't see any movement to change that
Really?
at this point.
That's fun for us.
As I said last week, in the future, everyone will be speaker for 15 minutes.
Right.
As
At least
Andy
in the
Warhol
Republican
said.
caucus.
Yeah.
Democrats, I would imagine, should be rolling out ads in those 18 districts right now, talking about Jim Jordan as as one of the January 6th, sort of like, I don't know if you call him a planner, but he was certainly like very important in the execution of the whole thing. And also, there is actual testimony of like grown men talking about Jim Jordan and what he did, and Jim Jordan calling them, begging them not to reveal. I saw some exchange with Brennan. Do we have that exchange where she asked one of these guys on CBS about Jim Jordan's problems with in terms of not reporting this sexual predator with his wrestlers, and the guy just lied. He said that's unproven. Nobody's ever testified to that fact. We played the footage. That's not sustainable. I mean, if they know that if you have to tell a lie, that none of that exists, eventually it's going to get out there, right?
There's this incredible cross pressure among this small handful of House Republicans who have said, we'd rather not Jordan for speaker. What you're going to face in a primary versus what you're going to face in a general election, what you're going to face sort of on a daily basis from Fox News and from the Republican noise machine versus what you're going to face in, ads from Democrats. It's an impossible position for a lot of these people. And usually what if you kind of look at sort of the iron law of institutions, usually what matters is your status within the institution.
Right.
And that would tend towards they're going to cave, they're going to make Jordan speaker. They'll deal with the outside pressures after that. But if they're well set within the institution, that sets them up for their career after Congress, right? If they were a team player. Maybe it is still a pretty high mountain to climb to convert essentially 62 people, I think. But he's off to a pretty good start this morning.
Do you think, lastly, Kevin McCarthy retires right away? I mean, here's my thinking, is that Jim Jordan increases the likelihood that the Republicans lose the House.
Right.
And if I'm Kevin McCarthy and I've got an offer and I know I could go and try and raise all this money to keep Republicans in office, but it's not going to work. I already have good relationship with a certain percentage of these guys. My value to K Street over the next year is going to be exponentially more than the following 2 years if they're out of office.
I mean, that's true. McCarthy's been a good soldier with Jordan and vice versa. I mean, the whole McCarthy scene right now for the last couple of weeks since he's been out, where he's just kind of been like the guy who didn't get picked for the pickup game, but he's just kind of waiting for an injury. He's just sitting around hey, if you need me, I'm working out.
Right.
I'm ready. I'm ready at any moment to come back in and be speaker. And I think right up until the moment that there's actually a speaker, he's going to continue to do that and make himself ready. But after that, the calculus makes sense. I mean, it does make sense that, particularly with Jordan, where he does have this good working relationship, he would be a very valuable commodity on K Street.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun and of course, then, theoretically, it might make the margin of error tinier and increase his value to K Street because he can maybe theoretically sell I'm going to hold that together. That's a good business plan for Kevin McCarthy. But we'll see. Mm-hmm. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Omar Shakir. He is the Israel and Palestine director at Human Rights Watch.